Welcome to Skytech-Lens. It all started with a threat. On a hot July day in 2025, the White House declared a 35% tariff on Canadian goods. The stated reason was to curb migrants and fentanyl, but the real impact hit American families. In Iowa, the Dwyer family faced skyrocketing fertilizer prices. The cost of potash surged 38% in 3 weeks, threatening their livelihood. Canada, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, responded quietly, leveraging its natural resources. The flow of potash from Saskatchewan slowed, a geopolitical chess move. The Dwyers were caught in a trade war crossfire. American farmers paid the price for underestimated political strategies. Canada demonstrated its power quietly, affecting American heartland. The tariffs meant to project strength exposed a critical weakness. The pain in Iowa was the first sign of a flipped trade dispute script. The story of the Dwyer family is America's unforeseen vulnerability. The humble mineral that feeds the world. Potash, rich in potassium, is essential for plant growth. It strengthens roots, improves water retention, and boosts yields. Without it, crops like corn and wheat would be scarce and costly. Mined from ancient deposits, potash is vital for agriculture. Canada holds over a third of the world's potash reserves. Saskatchewan is the epicenter, making Canada the top producer. Potash became a strategic tool in trade tensions. By controlling its flow, Canada influenced U.S. food production. The world learned a lesson in agricultural geopolitics. Power can come from unexpected places like beneath Canadian prairies. The U.S., an agricultural superpower, hides a critical vulnerability. It relies on foreign potash, importing 95% of its needs. Canada, the main supplier, provided a steady flow until tariffs hit. The U.S. government recognized the risk, restoring potash as a critical mineral. A new Michigan mine was planned but wouldn't solve the immediate crisis. The response was slow, leaving farmers exposed. Potash prices climbed, with former suppliers inaccessible due to sanctions. The dependency became a crisis, revealing Canada's quiet strength. The U.S. was backed into a corner, reliant on Canadian potash. The agricultural sector faced a full-blown crisis. The quiet strength of Canada's position was painfully clear. The laws of supply and demand highlighted America's vulnerability. Canada's response to tariffs was strategic patience. Prime Minister Carney avoided loud trade wars, opting for subtlety. Potash shipments slowed, causing U.S. prices to surge. For farmers like the Dwyers, it was an economic catastrophe. The quiet squeeze bypassed politicians, hitting the agricultural heartland. Farmers demanded solutions to the fertilizer crisis. Canada turned the tables without firing a shot. Controlling a vital resource created political pressure on the White House. The strategy exposed America's dependency and shifted the narrative. Canada played a smarter game, using natural resources as a weapon. The quiet power of its resources became its most potent weapon. The potash squeeze was part of Canada's strategic pivot. Canada aimed to break free from U.S. energy dependency. The LNG Canada project in Kitimat opened a new corridor to Asia. The first cargo vessel to Asia marked a monumental shift. The journey to Asia was faster, giving Canada a competitive edge. Canadian energy was no longer captive to U.S. markets. As more gas went to Asia, U.S. supply tightened, raising prices. U.S. refineries faced supply risks as Canada diversified. The White House declared an energy emergency, a paperwork solution. Canada built trade bridges across the Pacific, gaining resilience. Strategic diversification strengthened Canada's negotiating position. Canada proved that having multiple options is ultimate power. The move was quiet but powerful, reshaping energy dynamics. Canada chose a forward-thinking approach to U.S. steel tariffs. Instead of retaliating, it invested in its domestic industry. A billion-dollar fund modernized steel and aluminum plants. New technology and greener methods positioned the industry for the future. A job stability fund supported workers, ensuring adaptation. A quota system protected the market from cheap imports. The U.S. steel industry struggled with uncertainty. Canada's strategy of investment and regulation paid off. The industry became resilient and competitive on the world stage. Canada avoided confrontation, focusing on strengthening from within. The contrast with the U.S. was stark, highlighting Canada's success. Consider the stories of two individuals. In Iowa, David Dwyer, a farmer, faced soaring potash costs. He left fields unplanted, a painful choice against his instincts. The trade war felt personal, a political battle far from home. David's faith in government protection was shaken. In Hamilton, Ontario, Jean-Marc, a steelworker, saw a different story. Canadian investments modernized his plant, securing his job. The industry thrived, less dependent on the US market. Jean-Marc felt optimistic, proud of high-quality Canadian steel. The contrast between David's anxiety and Jean-Marc's confidence was stark. It was a tale of two governments, two strategies, and two fates. One government created uncertainty, the other security. The stories highlighted the impact of strategic responses. Canada's approach strengthened its industries and workers. The trade war's human impact was clear in these two lives. The diverging fortunes of the farmer and steelworker showed different government responses. Canada was strategic, investing in key industries and leveraging resources. The billion-dollar steel investment led to real upgrades. Potash shipment slowdowns impacted U.S. fertilizer prices. LNG exports to Asia diversified Canada's economy. Canada's response was competent and strategic. The U.S. response was chaotic, relying on tariffs. Bureaucratic gestures failed to address immediate supply issues. The U.S. strategy was noise over progress. Canada acted with unified purpose, treating the trade disputes seriously. The U.S. was entangled in divisive politics. Canada built economic defenses while the U.S. engaged in political theater. The consequences were borne by workers and farmers. The events of 2025 taught lessons in economics and geopolitics. Canada showed quiet power through strategic patience and investment. It flipped the script of a trade war it never wanted. Potash supply squeeze created a crisis in the U.S. heartland. Energy exports to Asia loosened U.S. grip on Canada's sector. Investing in steel strengthened Canada's economy long-term. Canada's moves were deliberate and effective. The economic relationship between the countries reshaped. The anxious farmer and confident steelworker symbolized different approaches. The U.S. must decide if it will learn from this experience. The world has seen Canada's quiet strength. Is America listening? Thanks for watching. Subscribe the channel for more updates.